Tonight's topic is making smart energy investments, home efficiency, and solar options. Before I introduce our speakers, just a couple things. If you did not fill out a door prize drawing, please do so. At the conclusion, we will draw 2 names, and you can get a $25 gift card, 1 per household. We have a light crew here tonight, so it's going to be spread out a little bit. In the back, there's some snacks and drinking water from Bloomington, award-winning drinking water, that is. Help yourself to that. And then finally, the HRA, where I work, we support the seminars every year, and I wanted to mention a couple things about that. Our mission is to provide affordable housing to its residents in Bloomington and affordable housing options, and we accomplish that through many different affordable housing programs. But the one I want to touch on quickly is a rehab loan program that we have. It's a deferred loan. You can use it to make home improvements and not pay the loan back until you sell, transfer title, or no longer live in the home. It's a very low interest rate at 2%, and equity requirements and income limits do apply. But if you're eligible for that program, we have a brochure there. I can answer questions at the conclusion if you have any questions about that program. So with that, I'll introduce our speakers. We have Trevor Drake from Metro Great Plains Institute. We have Kat McCarthy from CEE, or Center for Energy and Environment, and Dathan Lithgow from Midwest Renewable Energy. They'll be talking about many options that you have and ways to save money. With that, I'll turn it over to Trevor.
Thanks. Good evening. So I'm just going to kick us off, and then I'm going to turn it over. And just to let you know what the agenda is for the evening, I'll just give a little bit of context about energy in Minnesota, and then Kat from Center for Energy and Environment will come up here to talk about energy efficiency in the home. Dathan will talk about individual solar options, and then I'll wrap it up to talk about community solar gardens and green pricing programs. And I should say I'm with the Great Plains Institute. We are a nonpartisan, nonprofit organization working to transition the energy system to be environmentally and economically sustainable. And I do that work through a partnership called the Clean Energy Resource Teams. And we serve as a resource for Minnesotans who want to take action on clean energy. So just to give a little bit of background, in Minnesota and actually throughout the US, there are two sort of energy markets. There's the retail market, which involves customer activities, so the kind of market that you're involved in, and then there's wholesale. So that's where energy is generated and then transmitted across large areas. And in Minnesota, we deliver retail energy through regulated monopolies. So we have 3 different kinds of utilities in the state. There are investor-owned utilities, which Xcel Energy is one of. There are rural electric cooperatives, and there are municipal utilities. And each of these utilities has purview over a certain territory area and is regulated by some body. And I just want to ask, who here is an Xcel Energy customer? Are you guys Xcel as well? Yes. Okay, so everybody here is Xcel Energy. So that.
Choice for Xcel anyway.
Sorry, what's that?
I thought you only have choice for Xcel electricity anyway.
That's right. You don't have a choice. So it depends on where you live. And so we'll talk, actually this is why I'm saying this, we'll talk about why you have some choices even though you can't choose who your utility provider is. And so Xcel is regulated by the Public Utilities Commission. They're a state body. And we have 3 policies that enable you to have some choice. The first is Minnesota's Conservation Improvement Program. This is a law that requires utilities to spend some portion of their annual operating revenue on energy efficiency investments. So if you've ever participated in a program where you got a rebate back from the utility, this is falling under this larger policy. Second, we have a state renewable energy standard that requires utilities to generate or procure some portion of their electricity from renewable sources by a certain date. And then lastly, we have this net metering policy, which says that if you are to have a small renewable energy system on your property, you have to be able to plug that into the local utilities grid as long as it qualifies, and you have to be able to get compensated for that. And so these policies together enable you to have the opportunity to have some clean energy choices, which is what we are going to talk about here tonight. So I'm going to turn it over to Kat, who's going to talk about energy efficiency in the home.
So I'm Kat McCarthy. I work for the Center for Energy and Environment, and we're a nonprofit based out of Minneapolis. We help homeowners and businesses save energy and money, and we also operate programs like the Home Energy Squad, which I'll be talking about tonight. There are many different ways that we use energy in our daily lives, but the energy that we use at home is one that we have the most control over. So today we'll be talking about low cost and no cost energy saving things that you can start doing today. We'll talk about larger scale home improvements that will help your home save energy. And we'll also talk about how the Home Energy Squad can help you figure out all of those things. So at CEE, we've come up with a recipe for an energy smart home that includes good habits, good products, and good investments. You can have a good product like a programmable thermostat, but if you don't have the good habit of programming it, then you're not really capitalizing on the savings that it could offer. Can anyone here name some benefits of saving energy? How about saving money? If you're using less energy, your utility bill is going to be less, and you'll save some money. Some other common benefits are increasing the comfort in your home and also reducing your impact on the environment. So here we have a house that's kind of broken down into the 4 main ways that a typical Minnesota home uses energy. At the bottom we have water heating that takes up about 10%. Appliances account for about 15% of the energy use. Lighting and electronics at about 20%. And as you might imagine, heating and cooling our homes takes the most amount of energy in Minnesota. So we'll kind of go over ideas that you can take home today to start looking at all these areas. So we'll kind of start talking about water saving energy that goes into water heating. So a good habit would be to make sure your water heater is set to a good temperature. 120 degrees is our recommendation for efficiency, but also for safety. A good product would be to wrap your water heater with an insulating blanket. It just keeps the heat inside the tank, and then the water heater doesn't have to fire as often to keep the water at the same temperature. Other good products are high-efficient shower heads and faucet aerators. Those can save about a gallon of water per minute of use, and if you're using less hot water, your water heater is not working so hard. During a Home Energy Squad visit, we can install those water-saving fixtures and the water heater blankets as well. In terms of our appliances, refrigerators are kind of one of the big ones. This lovely avocado green refrigerator can use almost up to $200 a year in electricity to run if it's pretty old. And if you were to replace that refrigerator with a new Energy Star rated fridge, those only cost about $40 a year to run. So there's quite a bit to be saved by upgrading your appliances with Energy Star appliances. If you're looking to recycle a refrigerator, Xcel Energy does have recycling programs where they will come and pick it up for you. We don't recommend putting your old fridge in the basement as a beer fridge because then you're not really saving any energy. Is anyone here already using high-efficient bulbs in your homes? Excellent. That's a super easy thing that you can do. Compact fluorescent light bulbs use about 75% less energy than a standard incandescent bulb. And LEDs, which are a newer style of light bulb, use even less. The quality of these light bulbs has improved quite a bit since they first came out. So if you haven't tried using high-efficient light bulbs, I'd suggest giving them another shot. Does this look like a room in anyone's home? Little lights kind of flickering. If this looks like your living room, all of those electronics that have little indicator lights, even when the electronics are turned off, like your TV, it's always waiting for the remote to tell it to turn on. And that is drawing just a little bit of electricity, which may not seem like much, but you add up all of the electronics in your home. They're doing that 24 hours a day, and it really adds up. So we recommend using a smart strip, which is just a electrical strip that you can tell certain appliances or electronics to turn off when the strip is turned off. And if you need to leave other electronics on, maybe like your internet modem or a security system, then you have the option not to turn those off. But just like you would turn off lights when you're leaving the room, it's a great idea to turn off your electronics as well.
Do you have like a percent of how much energy is used with those lights compared like to the normal lights that you use?
The light bulbs.
Light bulbs, or also before you gave a percent for like TVs and lighting and everything. Do you know like just those lights when the equipment are not working? Like, is there anything?
It probably varies between different electronics. I guess I wouldn't be able to say an exact number. It's a small percentage, but it all adds up. So programmable thermostat is another good product that you can use to help save energy in your home. In the winter time, this allows you to automatically turn the heating temperature down when you're away at work or when you're sleeping. We recommend having an 8-degree setback. If you do an 8-degree setback for 8 hours, that can save you up to 8% on your heating and cooling costs. And you know, in the summer, if you're not home, you can also turn the temperature up so that your air conditioning isn't running so often. If you don't already have a programmable thermostat, that's also included in the Home Energy Squad visit. So there are other things that you can do to make your home more comfortable. If your house feels a little bit drafty or leaky, you can use the window film to go over the windows and stop air leaks through the windows. You can also caulk around the trim of the windows to stop air moving through there. And also gasket seals for outlets on exterior walls. This can help make your home feel more comfortable in the wintertime, but they're not really addressing the cause of your house feeling drafty or leaky. That's likely to be a lack of insulation and air sealing in your home. So we all know that warm air rises, and as it rises through your house, it will find little gaps and cracks, you know, through light fixtures, through your ceiling or your attic hatch, plumbing stack, lots of different areas that go from your living space into your attic. And if those aren't sealed off, then the money that you're paying to heat with your furnace is escaping. That can also, as it gets into the attic and warms the attic up in the wintertime, that can cause ice dams, which nobody wants. So we recommend having an insulator out to seal up all of those red arrows there. And that kind of stops the cycle of warm air leaving and cold air being pulled in through windows and doors. So I've mentioned the Home Energy Squad a few times. It's a partnership between the Center for Energy and Environment, your utilities, Xcel Energy, and CenterPoint Energy. And the City of Bloomington also offers a discount to Bloomington residents. A visit is normally $100, but the City of Bloomington offers it for $50. And what we do at the visit are diagnostic tests of your house. So we do a blower door test to see how airtight or leaky your home is. We inspect your insulation and try to find where all those red arrows are. And we also do a safety check of your heating system and water heater. And then I also mentioned that we install products to save energy that day. We do the programmable thermostat, the water saving fixtures, we'll weather strip doors, and also high efficient light bulbs are all included. We also give you a customized energy fitness plan based on what we found in your home that helps you prioritize some larger investments that you can make, like getting additional insulation or upgrading your furnace and things like that. Then we also have folks back at the office that can connect you to rebates, perhaps the financing that the City of Bloomington offers, and answer any other questions that come up. And if you're interested in signing up for a Home Energy Squad visit, I'll have a little list at the back table there where you can sign up for a visit. So with that, Dathan.
Hi everybody, my name is Dathan Lithgow. I work for an organization called the Midwest Renewable Energy Association. We're based out of Wisconsin, middle of the state, little town called Custer. We've been around since 1990 and we opened our St. Paul office in November of last year. And I do a lot of solar education around the state, mostly around residential solar home ownership. I have some cards there at the back of the table, or if you want to talk to me afterwards or ask questions during the presentation, feel free. I usually do this presentation in about 45 minutes, so I'm going to try and do it in about 10. But it's not the whole thing, it's just kind of a condensed version, so if you have any questions whatsoever, let me know, but I'm going to be specifically talking about rooftop solar, so owning your own solar system. So just a little kind of background information. Current state of solar, we have about 30 gigawatts of PV solar, photovoltaic, so solar panels installed in the United States, which is about 6 million homes worth. But it's growing rapidly. It represented 29.4% of all of the new energy generated in 2015, which was more than natural gas. It's getting up there. One of the main reasons that it is becoming more prolific and people are starting to really get interested in install more solar is that the price has precipitously dropped since 2000. Probably in the last 10 to 15 years. In 2004, price was about $8.50 per watt. 2014, that was down to under $3. So if you can imagine another consumer good where the price would drop, more than 60%, 70%, that would be like buying a car for $30,000 one year and then turning around 10 years later and buying that exact same car for $9,000. So the price has dropped quite a bit, and it makes it really attractive to homeowners at this point because it's kind of reaching that limit of it probably won't be getting much cheaper. But with that price drop, or maybe there's definitely a positive correlation between the drop in price and the number of installations that are happening throughout the US. So as that price continues to decline, the number of people going solar continues to grow. And 2016 is slated to be the best year for solar growth yet. 2015 broke the record last year, and we're looking to hopefully maybe close to double that this year. And probably within the last 10 to 15 years, the real estate market has really kind of caught up with solar. Before, they really didn't know how to market it. They didn't know how to make it look like an asset because people didn't really understand what it was, how it worked, and people just kind of saw it as like, oh, there's this thing I don't get that's on this house, I don't want to get involved. But as solar and conservation, sustainability have become more of a like common themes, and the culture has shifted a little bit. People are looking for homes that have solar panels or renewable energy systems already in place. And so 25% in the United States, solar homes sold for 25% faster and for 20% more than other non-solar homes. So it's really good for your homes portfolio. Nowadays, people are, like I said, are looking for that. And there's a lot of homes that are going up and being built with solar in mind. So I'm going to just kind of go through how this works. I won't get too much into the physics of how a solar panel actually creates electricity, but just know that the sun shines and there's some magic that happens. And those little photons or little molecules and atoms from the sun hit those solar panels, and they create electrical charges, and that flows out of that solar panel as a type of electricity called DC energy, or DC power, so direct current power. Unfortunately, our houses don't use direct current electricity. They use something called alternate current, and so you have to have a device called an inverter. And what that does is that takes that DC energy and converts it into AC power. And then that runs through an electric meter on your home, and that would measure the production that your solar system is making. Generally, if you're hooked up through Excel, that's a separate meter, so you would have a usage meter and a production meter. And then they would figure out what kind of credit that you would get at the end of the month. And there's several types of solar systems. The most common, and especially in urban areas, is the utility interactive grid-tied system. A lot of people are familiar with solar systems for off-grid housing where you have a battery backup system and whatnot. Those tend to be pretty expensive, and batteries tend to make systems doubled in size. However, if you're in a place like northern Minnesota where you don't have power lines coming to your property, then that might be a good idea. But in the city, we tie right into the grid. So you basically have that solar system on your roof, and that goes right into Excel's grid. So when you're overproducing electricity, it's going right to your neighbors or to the grid itself. And when you're underproducing, such as at night when there's no sun, then you're taking energy from the grid. So you never add a loss of energy as long as that grid is functioning. The one kind of downfall of this system is that if the grid does go down, then your system goes down, because utilities don't want power going to that grid if they're trying to work on it. So, you know, because that PV system is a power plant that's on your home, that inverter will shut down electricity to your house if the grid goes down. They are the least expensive, and they allow for net metering, which Trevor talked about a little bit. And what net metering is basically you sell electricity that you produce back to the utility, so in this case Excel. If you make more energy than you use, then they give you a credit on your utility bill for that electricity that you're producing. So 2 examples of that, this person over here is a net user. They use more electricity than they produce. So they'll have a cheaper electric bill because they've created some electricity, but they're not going to get any kind of credit. Whereas this house, they might be extremely energy efficient. You know, they might have really done a lot of work in that department. They're really careful about phantom loads and those kind of really nitty-gritty details. And you know, they're going to produce more than they use, and so they'll get credited on their electric bill. And the law in Minnesota right now is that whatever the current cost of electricity that you buy from the utility is, they have to pay that to you. So that's really nice, because that's not necessarily how it is in other states. And I get this question a lot: is there enough sunlight for solar in Minnesota? And the answer is absolutely yes. This is a solar irradiance map of the United States. You see us up there at the top. We're kind of in that green area. Obviously, the Southwest, you know, has got a better solar window than we do. The Pacific Northwest, a little worse. But this map right here is of Germany, and they have about half the sunlight that we do, and they're the world leaders in solar energy production currently. So we definitely have enough sunlight. You know, we have to contend with things like winter and snow, but solar panels actually are more efficient at colder temperatures. So if you really have like those like cold sunny days, those can be really high for production. And then just thinking about if your house is good for solar, just a few questions you might want to ask yourself. And then if you do get involved and talk to an installer, they can certainly help you with some of these. But do you have a south-facing roof? Generally, you can get away with an east-west depending on the pitch. You can't get away with a north-facing roof. It's not worth it. Shading issues, so do you have power lines, trees, other buildings kind of coming onto the property and shading them? Not just today, but also, you know, throughout the year, because as the sun's angle kind of declines in the winter, you might get more shading than you would in the summer. When do you anticipate re-roofing? It's not really it's not viable to do a re-roof and have to have someone come and take those solar panels down. So you want to make sure that your roof is, you know, relatively new and structurally sound. So if you have any problems with that, are you going to be in the house for a while? That's a good question to ask yourself. If you're planning on moving in a few years, might not be the best investment. It might be. It just depends. And then, is your home efficient? That's a really big step in going to renewables, especially if you're owning your own system. For every $1 that you spend on renewable improvements, you save $3 on renewable energy production. So if you've done some of those home improvements, then that really pays off in the long run. And then some cost factors are, you know, how big is your system going to be? Where is it going to be on your property? If it's going to be on the garage, you might have to pay, you know, for trenching, for cabling. There's all kinds of things that go into each system. The module type, so the type of panel, just like any other product, there are like literally hundreds of choices out there. Inverters as well. Your system siting, so like what are kind of some of the specifics there. The efficiency measures you've taken. If your home is really efficient, when an installer comes out, they're going to look at your electrical usage for the last year. And if you're really efficient, then they're going to size your system based on that. And then, yeah, other factors such as your roof condition. So I'm just going to talk about some of the incentives that are out there for people who want to install their own solar system on their roof. There are a lot of them, and some of them are really easy to get, and some of them are a little more difficult. But you can generally bring the cost of a system down by 50% on average if you apply for all the incentives and get them. The first one is the Residential Renewable Energy Tax Credit. That is a 30% return on your tax return that you get. It's 30% off the total system cost of a system. That 30% is only good until 2019, at which point it starts to sunset. That was supposed to expire at the end of this year, but we have a few more years thanks to some dedicated people in Congress. So 30% is a big deal. That would be like, I'm going to go buy this car and the government is going to give me 30%, you know, a third of that car price. It's pretty good. So that's a great incentive that's out there. There's a Made in Minnesota rebate. The deadline for that each year is February 28th. It usually is open from the first of the year up until the end of February. It's only available in those utilities, and it does provide a really good incentive. It is getting a little more difficult to get as it becomes more popular. But if you're able to get it, and it's based on the lottery, so it's not first come, first serve, it really is beneficial, and oftentimes it can pay for majority of the system costs. It's a production benefit, so it just depends on how much you're producing, but it's basically you get a credit from the state of Minnesota for how much your system produces each year. And then you're all in Excel. So Excel also has a really good incentive program called Excel Solar Rewards, and they pay you 8 cents per kilowatt hour that you produce on top of whatever they're already paying you for production. So that's 8 cents a kilowatt hour for up to 10 years. That's really good too. You know, depending on the system size, that could be anywhere from $3,000 to $7,000 that you're going to get in these payments over the years and credited onto your bill. And like anything, costs and incentives vary, so you got to make sure that you're working with an installer. If you would like me to give you the names of a few qualified ones, I would be happy to do that. My advice to you would be to get a few site assessments if you're really interested. Most installers will give free site assessments. If they don't, then I would stray away from them. But if you call up a solar installer, they'll come out to your house and they'll review your energy goals, what kind of system you want to do. They'll go over financials. They'll do the entire financial paperwork for going out 10, 15, 20 years. If you have to finance, they can factor all of that in. So most of them are pretty good at what they do. And then just make sure that you ask a lot of questions. And there are a few financing options out there that if you are interested in financing a portion of your system, there's a few state-run programs and nonprofits that do offer financing for solar, because a lot of banks still are just kind of like, they might not necessarily know how to deal with it. Obviously work with your banker or credit union bank if you feel comfortable with that. Center for Energy Environment has a really great solar loan. I think it's 5.9% fixed for 30 years, up to $50,000. So it's a really good deal if you have to finance a portion. Neighborhood Energy Connection in St. Paul, they also have financing programs. And then for small business, PACE, Property Assessed Clean Energy Program, is really good. And that's all I have. Yes.
Assuming you put in a good quality system, I'm assuming they are, but
yes.
What's the life expectancy of the system, and do they degrade over time?
Yeah, that's a good question. So what's the life expectancy of a solar system, and do they degrade over time? Generally speaking, most PV systems are warranted 25 to 30 years. The panels they're coming out with right now, there's no empirical data of how long they last because we just haven't had them long enough. So there are panels that are from the 1970s and 80s that are still producing at 75%, 45 years later. There is a built-in degradation with them. I believe it's 1% per year. So generally speaking, after that 25 years, you're still producing at generally 75 or 80% efficiency. And the warranties build that into, so if it ever drops below that kind of efficiency rating and you find a panel that's not producing at what it's expected to at that point in its life, then that gets replaced. Any other questions? All right, well, I'll be around afterwards if you have any more specific questions.
Thanks, Dathan. Hi again. My name is Trevor Drake. Again, I'm with the Great Plains Institute and the Clean Energy Resource Teams. So I'm going to talk about community solar or solar gardens, and then green pricing, which in Excel territory, the program is called WindSource. And then we'll wrap up. We'll have an opportunity for you to ask questions, and then we've got some resources at the back. So Dathan talked about doing solar as an individual, and community solar, sometimes called community shared solar, solar gardens, is different in that you are getting together with a group of people and you're all buying into or subscribing to a central solar system, and then you're all receiving a benefit that's proportional to how much you subscribe to. In Excel Energy territory, you can subscribe to up to 120% of your average annual electricity usage, and the benefit that you get is delivered to you as a credit on your monthly utility bill. So to be eligible to subscribe to a solar garden in Excel's program, you need to, 1, have an Excel Energy bill so that you can get that bill credit, and 2, you need to subscribe to a garden that is either in the same county that you live in or in an adjacent county. So a few just upfront facts about solar garden subscriptions. In Excel's program, which is different than almost all the other programs in Minnesota, the subscriptions are offered by third-party solar developers. So Excel's not offering these. They're private companies, and I mentioned earlier that Excel is regulated by the Public Utilities Commission. These companies are not regulated. So when you go to sign up for a solar garden subscription, the way you do that is by signing a contract with one of these companies. And generally, those contracts are written the way they want them to be written. So you need to be prudent and read through that. And the term of the agreement that's being offered right now is about 20 to 25 years. We haven't seen much less than that. So that's a long period of time. So if that's concerning to you, we suggest that you understand clearly what the exit clauses are in that contract. And normally they're spelled out in a few different ways. So if you have to move out of the service territory, oftentimes there might be a small administrative fee. If you pass away, oftentimes they'll just take it back. They won't charge anything to your family members. If you move within the service territory, so if you are just going to move somewhere else in Bloomington, you're still in the same county, you can just take it with you. And if you decide you just don't want it anymore, often there is a fee, and so you want to know what that is up front. And then lastly, one of the exciting things about solar gardens is that there's an opportunity to lower your electricity bill starting on day 1. So it can be a good opportunity. So we're just going to walk through conceptually as if we had subscribed to a solar garden so you can see what the process is like. So you start by determining how much electricity you use in a given year. I'm going to use 9,600 kilowatt hours, which is the use for an average Minnesota household. And then you want to ask, how much do you want to offset with a solar garden subscription? So let's go 100%. It's about 8 kilowatts of solar. And now we can shop around to find a developer who's got an opportunity. So luckily, we have an online database called the Clean Energy Project Builder, where you can go in, you can tell it what electric utility you're with and what county you live in, and it will pop out a whole bunch of options for solar gardens that you are eligible to subscribe to. And then you can talk to solar developers and find a company that you like. So I'll just say there are a whole bunch of developers out there, and some of them have been doing a lot of mail marketing in the metro area, so you might have received something in the mail. But know that you can shop around, and so the one that's sending you mailers might not be the one that you want to sign up with, or maybe it is. But you have options, which is great. So a few things we think you should ask solar garden developers are, 1, what's the pricing structure? And is your payment tied to production of the garden? So if the garden doesn't produce, do you still pay or not? This can be set up so that you only pay based on what's produced, and we think that's probably the best model. Is the business model something that you agree with? Do you care where the garden is located? Do they have a good customer service reputation? Those kind of general questions in working with any contractor. Exit clauses we talked about, and then project construction and timing. So you may have heard that there are a whole bunch of these gardens in an application queue, and some of them are sort of waiting in line to get built. So you just want to make sure you know up front, when is that garden going to come online so you can start receiving that benefit. Okay, so let's say that we found this and I had made these solar developers up. So Fun in the Sun is my made up name for a solar garden developer. They're offering us this subscription opportunity, 14 cents per kilowatt hour produced by the garden. So we're going to pay them 14 cents for every kilowatt hour produced by our portion of the garden that we're subscribed to. And that rate is going to go up by 2.75% each year for 25 years. So once that garden begins producing electricity, 3 things are going to happen. 1, you are going to begin making payments to that solar garden developer at that rate. 2, you're going to begin receiving credits on your monthly utility bill equal to the production of your portion of the garden. And so the rate of your bill credit is set based on electricity prices by the Public Utilities Commission, and it's updated every year. Okay? So again, what you pay to the developer is set by them in your contract. What you get on those bill credits, that's set by the Public Utilities Commission, and it can change year to year. We'll talk about that. And then lastly, you still pay your bill. So you've got your bill, but it's getting credited based on your production. So if your bill, it might be slightly greater than 0, then you'll pay the difference. If it's less than 0, you'll have a credit carried to the next month. And if in a given year your credits exceed your total bills, then Xcel will write you a check, which could be nice. So here's the bill credit rates for 2016. At the top is the standard rate. So they're saying $0.12596 per kilowatt hour is what residential customers generally pay for their electricity across the board in Xcel service territory. And then we've got this incentive in this incentive piece. So what this is Xcel is saying we've got to comply with those state renewable energy standards that I mentioned right when we started. And they're saying we will pay you an additional 2 cents per kilowatt hour if you sell us the renewable energy credits. So renewable energy credits are a way to track renewable energy that's been produced. And you are essentially selling that back to Xcel Energy. And in the solar incentive programs that Dathan talked about, generally you're also selling those credits to Xcel Energy. Why does this matter? Technically, you can't claim that you're renewably powered if you don't own those credits. As an individual, not really a big deal. If you're an institution, like a city that has a carbon reduction goal and you want to back that up with something, then you probably care about those more. And I've highlighted this in gold because almost all of the offers that are out there are at this standard plus 2 cent incentive rate, so 0.14596. For smaller gardens, you can actually get an additional penny per kilowatt hour. So we're just going to I'm going to keep going with this model on this additional 2 cent rate. So month 1 of our solar garden, if we didn't subscribe, we'd be paying about $100 for our Xcel bill using 800 kilowatt hours per month, the average Minnesotan. But if we subscribe, we still pay that $100, but then we have this bill credit, and it's more than $100 because we have that additional 2 cents. And then we also have to make a payment to the solar garden developer. So we've taken our bill, actually we've offset it entirely. We've gone $16 below our bill, but now we need to pay $112 to the developer. So at the end of the day, we're paying $96 in the month as opposed to $100. We save $4. Okay? Yeah, that's decent for 100% renewable power. Pretty good. So here's something to keep in mind. As I said, that bill credit rate can fluctuate from year to year based on electricity prices. Generally, the fluctuations are not huge, but I've drawn this just to show that they are variable, and your subscription rate is fixed. So over 25 years, you'd expect you'd probably save money on a good contract. But just to say that in a given year, if electricity prices go down, you might actually spend more money than if you hadn't subscribed to the garden. So just something to keep in mind. We've got a great calculator online at this website, and I can give this to folks afterwards. You can actually put in what you think electricity prices might do in the future, and then we give you what they've historically done. So this is the same offer in a red line, 14 cents per kilowatt hour, going up at 2.75%. The blue line is the historic electricity price increase. So if energy prices go up at the rate they have over the past 15 years, you'll have your savings is the difference between the two. And in the green line, I've said, okay, 3.5%, which is the historic. I think that's high. I'm going to say 3%. And so that's what the green line is here. So you can test this out. If you were to see this green line cross the red line, then at that point, you would begin losing money as a result of this subscription. This calculator will also spit out your savings at different points in time. So at the top, you've got what you save on a monthly bill. At the bottom, you've got your cumulative savings over time. And the nice thing about this is if you're not saving money, if you're losing money, these will turn red in the calculator. So one of the things to think about in signing up for a solar subscription is the opportunity cost. Is now the right time for you to do this? Do you want to wait? Certainly the market could improve. There could be a better offer tomorrow than there is today, so that's something to think about. The technology, as Dathan mentioned, is improving, so maybe the cost will come down, and then the program design could change. And really all of these things could be for better or worse, but I just mentioned them to keep in mind. On the program design, it actually is changing. So starting in January of 2017, the bill credit rate will change to what's called the value of solar. So this is a calculation where they take all the benefits that solar energy provides to the electricity system minus all the costs of it on the system and come up with some value. So in 2016, that value of solar rate was 9.95 cents. Compare that to the current bill credit rate of 14.5 cents. It's quite a bit lower. So the good thing is that this only applies to new gardens that are deemed complete in the application process starting in January 2017. So when you sign up under a solar garden, whatever bill credit rate you sign up for is the bill credit rate that you'll have for the lifetime of that garden. That won't change. So if you sign up under the old model that's based on electricity prices, you'll have that for the rest of your contract. If you sign up under a new garden, you'll have this value of solar model. So some developers are out there saying you've got to sign up, the program's changing, sign up right now, sign up today. There's some truth to that, but some of these older model subscriptions will be available yet for some time. And we've got some great resources on solar gardens on our website. I've got some of these back here, questions that you can ask of developers, that kind of thing. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about green pricing, different program. It's called WindSource in Xcel Energy's territory. This takes about 5 minutes to sign up for online, and you can go 100% renewable energy, and you pay a small price premium for this. So in this program, what you end up doing is you pay a little bit more for renewable energy, but then you don't pay for the fossil fuel costs that go into your energy bill. I'll show you an example of a bill in a second on how that works. One way this is different from the solar garden program is that the renewable electricity that you're purchasing, you actually keep those renewable energy credits. They're yours. So this will be beyond what Xcel Energy is required to do under that renewable energy standard. It's additive. Some people are really excited about that. And then the term is just 1 year initially, and then you can cancel anytime after that. So if solar gardens sound a little complicated to you, but you want to be 100% renewably powered, this is a really easy way to do that. So I have this WindSource program. This is my bill from last month. I used 418 kilowatt hours. You can see that in the darker yellow bars, they have charged me about $10 for that fossil fuel cost charge, but then they've credited it back to me, and then I'm paying $14 or $15 for renewable electricity from wind, and so my net WindSource charge is about $5. So I paid $5 in the month, and I'm 100% renewably powered. And so I just kind of pair these together in case one seems better than the other. And I think it depends on what your goals are and what you want to get out of it and whether you care how complicated the sign-up process is. So with that, I think that we will stand for questions for a few minutes, and then we've got some resources in the back. Any questions?
I think it's important to add, Trevor, that on your model for community solar, when you were saying that the price of electricity may drop in a year and you could lose out, the price of electricity could also like spike over time way more than we predict, and then you could be, you have a fixed cost for electricity for 25 years, so it could be a huge benefit just depending on what happens.
That's a great point. Yeah, I tend to emphasize the risks, but there are also some potential huge rewards. Yeah.
Could you back up a slide?
Yeah. And did you have a question?
Yeah, I was going to ask, when you talk about like a community-based program, So, I don't know, for me it's hard to understand like how it's really renewable energy if it's going from the same grids, like the normal electricity comes.
If it's coming from the same grid, is that? So the question is, how is it actually renewable electricity? Good question, and maybe Dathan can back up whatever I
absolutely.
Whatever I say. So on the electricity grid, one of the interesting things is that you can't distinguish an electron that came from a fossil fuel, like a coal plant, for example, from an electron that came from a solar power plant. So how do you account for that? We have this. We have these renewable energy credits or renewable energy certificates, and one of those is issued per every unit of electricity that's generated. It's a megawatt hour of electricity, and those credits or certificates can actually be bought and sold on a market. And so, in the Solar Garden program, that renewable electricity is being produced, and it's actually being tracked, and those credits are being generated. And so if you sign up under this, go back here to my, if you sign up under this rate, which is mostly what's being offered, you're technically selling those credits to Xcel Energy. So what that means is they own the renewableness of that electricity. You've actually sold the renewable electricity to the utility, and the electricity that you're getting is equal to what you get otherwise. So the benefit is that you've helped put that onto the whole system. You've helped the state meet its goals and mandates. But if you really want to say that you're 100% renewably powered and you own those credits, then you either would want to sign up under this, which unfortunately is not really available, or you'd want to sign up under something like the Wind Source program. Does that help?
So it's interesting because if you have your own solar system on your house, the energy that you're producing, you're using right there at the source. When you're doing community solar, you're not, the power that solar panels producing isn't necessarily like going into the grid and then going to your house, It's just going onto the grid and they're buying it from you and you're getting credited for that. But it is good because you're getting solar energy, you're proliferating solar energy, so you're making it marketable for developers and companies that want to come in and say, are people buying this? And so then, that generates more of it. And then it's also just, it's just, you can feel good that you're helping proliferate renewable energy. But you're not using those electrons from that panel per se.
I've got a question for Kat.
Yeah.
How long does a home energy squad energy audit typically take?
It would be about 2 hours. The question was, how long does a home energy squad visit take? And it's usually about 2 hours.
And what does the blower door do?
Yeah, so a blower door is measures the air tightness of the home. So we make sure that all the doors and windows are closed and we have the house as tight as possible. And the blower door pushes air out of the house until the house reaches a certain negative pressure. And when air leaves the house, just by the force of physics, other air from outside is being pulled in to replace that air. And so that's where we can find all the air leaks into the attic or through windows and things. And you can literally feel it with your hand, or you can see it with an infrared camera.
Question. I know that you mentioned before it depends, on the material that you use. Like when you're talking about like solar panels that go on top of the roof, but I like to use averages. Is there like an average price that you would say for like a single family that has like 3 to 4 bedroom house?
Like you want like a system cost?
Correct.
Well, there are so many variables, it's really hard to say, but if you wanted a ballpark figure, generally the average home in Minnesota, you can produce 100% of your electricity from probably anywhere from 6 to 10 kilowatt system, depending on how efficient your home is and how good you are with some of the improvements that Kat talked about. And that could be anywhere from $20,000 to $30,000, $40,000. However, with all of those incentives and stuff, you can generally bring that down. So if you were to install a 5 kilowatt system, which would maybe produce 3/4 of your electricity, you could take that $20,000 price and probably bring it down to more like $9,000 with all those incentives. And then you would just have to finance the $9,000. But keep in mind that you would be getting a much cheaper electric bill because you're producing some of your electricity. So if you do it right, then the price that you're paying on your loan will equal the price that you're saving on your utility bill. So you can, if you figure it out right, you can be like cash positive. Otherwise, you could pay for it in cash, at which point you're creating free electricity for as long as the system lasts. Or if you have to finance it, say over like 10 or 15 years after that is paid for, then it's all free. So if you take 10 years to pay off your loan, you own that system outright in 10 years, and that system's going to last 40 years. You have 30 years of free renewable electricity that, and as electricity goes up in cost, which it will, quote me on that, unless cold fusion or something comes around, like it will go up. So. Mm-hmm.
You had a slide up that was, I think, a website you could go to see what solar gardens are available in the area. It's called Clean Energy Project.
It's Clean Energy Project Builder. Yep, and I have a handout that I can give you. But if you Google Clean Energy Project Builder, it's normally the first thing that pops up.
Yeah, so there's a few of these at the back table, and it's just kind of like an overview of that.
Let's see if.
Are there many solar gardens in Hennepin County?
So there are many solar gardens that are in the application queue to be built throughout the metro. Some of them are in Hennepin County. Currently, there are only 3 gardens that are totally approved and online and ready, and I don't actually know the exact locations of them.
But you can also subscribe to an adjacent county. So if you're in Hennepin County, that's 5 or 6 other counties, I think.
Yeah.
And Hennepin County tends to have fewer land resources than counties that are farther out. So.
Right. So Hennepin is actually well situated. Some of the heavy development has been in Wright County and Dakota County, which is beneficial for folks in Hennepin County because you touch both of those.
You said at one point I thought you said there were like about 3 questions, but you said there were certain questions that you should ask if you were looking at joining a community solar garden. And they went by too quickly.
Yeah, sorry about that. So I have a handout with a whole list of questions that you can ask, and I can provide that to you. But for me, the main ones are, what's the pricing structure? So what are you going to pay? And generally, you have a starting rate and then an escalator. So you'll have some starting amount, and that's going to go up by a percentage each year. You can also set it up to do pay upfront. You can just do a lump sum payment on day one, and that's cheaper. In both cases, I think one of the key questions is, what's the guarantee that the garden is going to produce for what you're paying for? So in it's called the pay-as-you-go model, where you have monthly payments and that rate goes up year to year. You want to see in that contract that you're paying per kilowatt hour produced by your share of the garden. So if it doesn't produce, then you don't pay anything. And if it's a pay up front model, you want to ask, is there a guarantee for the performance? And if it doesn't perform, is that developer going to write you a check for your money that you put down? So that's the first part, payment. The second part was the developer's business model. So some people are really interested in subscribing to a solar garden that they can see, that they drive by every day. Other people say, I don't care, it could be way out in Wright County, doesn't matter to me. So just making sure that it's a company you want to work with and that you agree with their values. The third was, I think, project construction and timing. So there have been some folks who signed up for a solar garden, and a week later they said, okay, where's my bill credit? I signed up. And they contacted the developer, and the developer said, oh, that garden's not coming online until 2017. And they said, really? Well, what did I sign up for then? So you want to make sure that that's clear up front. And
Exit.
oh yeah, exit clauses.
Right.
Yeah, so if you wanted to get out of that contract for whatever reason, what fees might be incurred? And you want to make sure that that's spelled out really clearly. Yeah.
Any other questions? Okay. Well, we'll be around for a little bit here if you have anything else.
Well, I'd like to thank Trevor, Dathan, and Kat for